Why do people stay in relationships after betrayal? Today, I wanted to kind of follow up on Susan's story, but also just talk about this. Why do people stay after betrayal? Yesterday, we talked about Susan. Susan and her husband had been together for 30 years. She was a stay at home mother and wife. She worked back in high school as a waitress, but besides that, since getting married, she's never worked. So she's been with her husband, as I mentioned, 30 years. They have 4 children. Her husband is financially successful. He's a top salesperson working for his father's company, and he is in line to take over that company once his father retires in a couple years. So they have a nice life. They can afford vacations. They take their 3 or 4 vacations per year. They take their kids on weekend getaways. They take weekend honeymoons for themselves, or time together for themselves. They have a housekeeper that comes in once a month, even though Susan prefers to take care of the weekly stuff. But once a month, they do have someone come in to do some heavy cleaning, deep cleaning around the house. Whenever they're going away, they have babysitters. So they live a nice, I would say, upper middle class lifestyle. Nice car, nice house, great neighborhood, great schools. Susan is very happy. She has a great community of people around her. She has friends. Her family's not too far away. She has her sister in the next town. Her brother lives 2 towns up. You get the picture. So she has a nice upper middle class life. Yesterday, her fantasy was kind of broken. She always thought of her husband as the perfect husband. Of course, she has access to the internet, and every now and then she comes across videos of women complaining about men and how they're treated by men. And she's always saying to herself, this is not my experience. My husband is wonderful. He takes good care of me. I'm so lucky to have him. What a blessing. But yesterday, her perfect world was shattered when she found a condom wrapper in her husband's pants pocket. She found the condom wrapper and it destroyed her. Even though she decided to stay in the relationship, she was destroyed. Her fantasy, her perfect world, everything was shattered. She decided to stay because she did not want to ruin what they have going. She wants people to believe they have the perfect life. She wants her children to have both parents. She wants to keep the financial benefits, and she does not want to go out and work, even though she told me her reason for not wanting to work is that she finished high school. She never went to college. She hasn't worked. She hasn't developed any marketable skills besides being a homemaker, which is a great skill to have. But she said that it's very hard to sell that to an employer, which I agree with her. So today we're going to talk about why people stay in betrayal. And I think I named a number of them while talking about Susan's story. So one reason she mentioned for staying is that she loves her husband. She loves him. She's not ready to give him up to a 25-year-old he met at the gym. She loves him. She loves their life together. And besides finding the condom wrapper, he's the perfect man to her. He never says no to her. He never yells at her. He listens to her. He buys her gifts. He takes care of all the bills. He's a provider. He's a protector. She loves him. She's not ready to give up on that. Another reason she mentioned is just, what would her community say? What would her friends say? What would the pastor at the church say if she were to tell him that she's leaving her husband? She does not want to be judged by her community. She does not want to be seen as the woman who ruined a 30-year marriage because someone made a human mistake. She does not want her children to hate her. And of course, she doesn't want to struggle financially, even though leaving the 30-year marriage, I'm sure she would get alimony and child support and even some money from whatever income or whatever wealth they have accumulated over the years. But she does not want to take the chance, and she does not want to be this single woman at 47. Another reason, so there are a couple of reasons that people do not leave after betrayal. Number one, they're comfortable. Uncertainty is scary. The devil you know is often preferable to the devil you don't know. So even though someone betrayed you, maybe it's shattered the fantasy of having the perfect life, but you still feel on a fundamental level that you know your partner. You know how he reacts. You know everything about him, and that's sometimes easier to deal with than something new. Uncertainty. What if I never find anyone else? What if I'm unable to support myself? Like all these things come into someone's head when they're thinking about leaving a 30-year marriage. You're so used to it. She was with this man since she was 16 or 17, and he's all she really knows. Her life is like built around him and intertwined with his. Another reason people stay in relationship after deception, cheating, lying, whatever the case may be, is we talked about fear of uncertainty. We talked about financial dependency as well, and I'm going to talk about that a little more. So I mentioned in the video yesterday that I always, at my core, believed in hypergamy. But I want to say this. Yes, though I do believe in traditional values, I do believe the woman should always receive an education. So she should go to college or something, get her degree. And I believe that she should develop her own skills. So even if someone's married to someone who, to a husband who takes care of all the bills, he makes sure that she's financially secure, I think it's her responsibility to do something on the side of that. So whether it's starting a business or a hobby or writing books or something, she should have something to fall back on, some kind of skills that she can use in case things don't work out with this person. I have met people throughout the years having this channel and also, just in my everyday life who had been in marriages where they were the stay-at-home mother and wife, and then the husband leaves them, and sometimes they're left with nothing while the court decides who should get what, and they struggle for at least a couple months. And some of them, I met a lady who, her husband was a lawyer. He was one of the biggest lawyers in New York City, and he found a way to hide his money. And even though she eventually did get something out of the divorce, he hid a lot of money. He was planning to leave her for about 2 years before he filed for divorce. He had been having an affair for those years and he wanted to leave her, but he was financially savvy, so he hid money little by little over 2 years and then filed for divorce. So yes, she ended up with something, but not nearly as much as she should have ended up with. So there's that. So a woman should always, first of all, if she's depending on a man to take care of her, she should know how much money they have. That should be a discussion that's had between the two of them. They should have financial meetings where she has access to whatever money they have. It shouldn't just be, here's a credit card, go use it, and don't worry about what's in the bank account. So it's up to the woman to be smart and protect herself. And that's what I always say. Get an education, start a hobby, do something, or at least develop your skills so that if he leaves and he hides all the money or there is no money, because sometimes people lie, you can do something for yourself, right? You can go get a job. You can work on a business. You could do something. You're not left with nothing. So that's another reason why people stay in relationships when they are no longer serving them or when there's dishonesty. They are afraid of giving up the finances. They're afraid of losing everything, and that is very understandable. So another reason why is they're competing with the other woman. So let's say a woman like Susan had been married for 30 years. Now here comes this 25-year-old from the gym who decided to pursue her husband or have an affair with her husband. Susan is now in competition with that other woman, whether she cares to admit it or not, right? We don't like to admit it. But Susan saw herself as competing directly with that woman, because look at what she said. She said, there's no way I'm giving up my lifestyle so that some 25-year-old could take everything I helped build. Those were her words to me. I'm not going to give up my lifestyle so a 25-year-old could take what I have built with my husband. So that's another reason there's a silent competition and she doesn't want to lose it. So she's going to fight for her relationship. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it is one of the reasons why people stay in relationships after deception. Another reason, children. Susan has 4 children and they're still in school. The oldest child, I believe he's 17. He's going to be graduating from high school this year. So, no, actually, she has one older than that. But anyway, one of her child is about to graduate high school this year. So I think another one might be out of college. And then she has 2 younger children. She has a 10-year-old and she has a 5-year-old. And those children, she feels, deserve to have a 2-family household. And, Susan herself was raised in a 2-family household, and that's the way she believed that it should be, that children should have both parents. She cannot imagine raising those children alone. So she's staying for the children. She said, I'm going to stay at least until the youngest child is 18, which is another 13 years. So she's committed to the relationship at least until then. So that's a huge one. People don't want to break up relationships because they want to have both parents there for the children. Another one that we hate, women, we hate to admit this, but aging is another reason. Susan's 47. She's not old, right? But she does not want to start over at that point in her life. She doesn't want to have to start dating again. She's used to having a partner, so she confided in me that she would have to go and find another partner because she hates being alone. So she doesn't know what the dating landscape is like, but what she's seen online, everything is scary out there. It's hard to date. So she'd rather keep this guy who has messed up twice, at least twice that she knows of, than to go out there and find someone else who she doesn't know. She has to build trust in him again. She just doesn't want to start over. She feels like she's too old to date, and I had to really sit her down and talk to her about this one. At 47, honey, you're not too old to date. People are starting over at 47. You're still young enough to do so. She wouldn't hear it. She said that she's too old to date. She's too old to start over. So I had to add aging to the list here. Another reason, identity attachment. Who am I without this relationship? I am Susan and John. We are Susan and John. Who am I if John is no longer here, for example? We're together, we're a couple. Everything is joint. So they don't want to break that identity that they've created over 30 years. And that's one of the major reasons. Another reason is he's not all bad. He cheated twice. He's human. Everyone makes mistakes. How could I turn my back on the love of my life because he made a human error twice? And that's what Susan told me is he's really not bad. He's the best husband in the world. Let's just go ahead and erase the 2 times he cheated. And he's back to being Mr. Perfect. So that's another reason. The other reason is she believes he'll never do it again. He has convinced her that it happened twice. The 25-year-old meant nothing. He is not going to pursue her. She has not pursued him. And that he is in love with Susan and wants to make it work. So she's seeing a bright future for them. And she doesn't want to ruin what they have. So I know people online always say, girl, you should leave him. But after 30 years, 4 children, no income, no identity outside the marriage, leaving isn't a sentence. It's an earthquake. Okay, guys, I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the reasons people do not leave after betrayal? Let's talk a little bit about Susan also. She'll be reading your comments. So show her some love in the comment. Show her some support in the comments. She really is a sweet lady. Just show her that we're all human and we understand. It's not always as easy as, girl, you should leave him.